Welcome to Get Your FRQ On. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to graph function operations on your graphing calculator. By function operations, I mean the sum or difference of two functions, the product of functions, the quotient of functions, and even function composition. So the first thing you're going to want to do is go to your y equals editor and make sure that you have your original functions already programmed in there. In order to make this a lot easier, we're going to use the fact that y1 is 2x minus 1 and y2 is x squared minus 3x plus 2, and we're going to define our operation functions in terms of y1 and y2 rather than those expressions. All right, so if I want to graph, let's say I want to find the difference between y1 and y2, all right, I can go into y3 and I'm just going to use y1 and y2 variables. So I'm going to go to variables, y variables, first function, minus variables, y variables, second function, and that function now represents the difference, 2x minus 1, I think it was, minus whatever is in y2 as a new function. Right? And I can do the same thing. First, let me turn this one off. I can do the same thing with multiplication. I can do function 1 times function 2. All right, and this graph represents the function you would get by multiplying y1 by y2, which does make sense. Keep in mind y1 is a linear function and y2 is quadratic. If I multiply those two things together, I should get something that is cubic, and that graph definitely could pass as a cubic function. So what I'm looking at is a reasonable graph for that. It would not surprise me to see something that looked like that. We can do division. So we turn this one off. Basically do the same thing. Take the first function and divide it by the second function. Now, this is going to be a rational function whose numerator is 2x minus 1 and whose denominator is x squared minus 3x plus 2, so I wouldn't be surprised if I saw horizontal asymptotes and vertical asymptotes and things like that. Lo and behold, vertical asymptotes, horizontal asymptotes. The calculator is not going to graph the vertical asymptotes, but you can kind of tell what's going on, especially if I zoom out. Although that might have been a bit too much either way. And then I can also do composition. So let's say I want to do y2 of y1. I can go to variables 1, function 2, and then using function notation, the parentheses, this now will mean y2 of, and I just want to input that first function. So if I graph that, I get this function, which again should be quadratic, but it is different than the previous one. But that's how you can do function operations and graph the different results of function operations on your graphing calculator. Store your primary functions as y equals functions, and then just use the y equals variables to set up what you need.